Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the second episode of the Stellar Circuit Central podcast. It's good to be back here with my best bud, Jesse Olsen.
How's it going?
It's been another good week in music, man. There's been some cool stuff coming out. I guess one of the first things we should talk about is the performance that was released today by Spiritbox. It was released today, right?
Yep. It was released today. I saw it on their Instagram, and then I just pulled it up through their bio, and they had the interview, and then at the end of it, they had the performance, which I thought the interview was pretty cool.
Yeah.
At least it was cool to hear their response to the guys' questions. But yeah, and then the performance was amazing, like everything that they do.
Yeah, right on. We definitely love those guys, and it's always cool to see them get exposure and see them doing more stuff. I admittedly, I thought it was going to be like a performance of a bunch of songs, so it's not like it was disappointing, but
Oh, really?
yeah, I didn't know that it was just one song, which was really cool. The scenery was cool, how they were in that church, you know what I mean? And gotta love the acoustic strings behind them, which was I want to say they had a cello and I was gonna say an accordion, a violin, and I think it was a 3-piece string section behind them.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Constance was the song that they did.
Yeah.
Which was definitely one of their more emotional type. Honestly, it's the only slow song that I can think that they've done. I mean, I've been listening to them since I heard about. I can't remember how I heard about them originally.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But ever since they came out with their self-titled EP, I heard. I think the first song that I saw was the Mara Effect. It might have been part 3. I can't remember the one that they had the video for, but
Yeah.
ever since then, I mean, I was just hooked.
Yeah.
They've been in my top 3 for, I don't know, probably 2 years now. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the first thing I saw from them. I think you turned me on to them, but it might have been the vocal playthrough that she did for I don't know if it was Beauty of Suffering or she might have had one for Mara Effect. I can't remember.
Well, they had the video for Mara Effect. That's probably what you're thinking of.
No, it was definitely. I don't know if it was the first thing, but it was one of the first things that got me hooked. Was seeing that playthrough that she did. It was like black and white. But that album, you know, that might have been the first thing that I did was just listen to the album. I love that first EP or whatever.
See, this is the one that I'm talking about. Oh, sorry, it was Mara Effect Part 1.
Yeah, the video. That was probably the first thing I saw.
And and it's definitely worth mentioning, which they mentioned in the interview, which I recommend people check out. But that a big part of, and I've always told you this, like a big part of that band is their imagery, and their music videos have always at least pulled me in. Their EP, it was a lot darker. You know, it was a lot of black and white, a lot of lower budget stuff that they did themselves, but then they did what was the Perennial?
That's like a chiller song too, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, it's chiller. It's definitely.
I don't know if
chiller.
it has any screams. It might.
It's got some screams. It's more like background stuff, but
yeah,
that was like their first. I'm pretty sure that was their first music video. It was just like, it blew me away though. They started working with I think it's Versa Films, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look. I think it's Versa Films.
Yeah, they set that cool precedent, like you said, with the black and white shit, and like obviously they're really dark band. Films. It was cool hearing them touch on the whole concept behind Spiritbox, which is awesome. I mean, we love conceptual things like that, not necessarily like concept albums per se, but bands that just have that thing tied around the name and kind of the idea behind it. And I guess that's what like the staticky thing that you hear in the first EP, where it sounds like a radio, and they talk about that's the whole idea behind Spiritbox is like I don't know what the word for is, supernatural apparitions that come
paranormal.
through
Paranormal.
that come through radio frequencies, and it's just a cool idea. Obviously we kind of like that kind of thing with our name being Stellar Circuits, and that was one of the things that stoked us up when we started the band, and something that you can draw from. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like you make it a point to write about it or put stuff into what you're doing, but when it ties into what you're doing, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth mentioning that, and I've told you this, that I just feel like they have a sense of freedom about their music, and they don't, and it's actually mentioned in that interview as well. It's just they're just not held down by anything. Like, you know, they could put out like a song like Holy Roller, which was the heaviest song that they had, and that they've had, and then, you know, right after that they can come out with something like Consonance, which is the most, you know, chill song that they've come out with. So I don't know. I find that freedom of writing pretty great, especially with nowadays, with the way that metal is, and
so like kind of narrowed into one thing for a lot of bands. But yeah, I think we might have touched on that a little bit last time when we were talking about like progressive music and the fact that you're drawn from so many stuff, and definitely it helps with a band that gains notoriety through their independence, that they start out, like she said. I think it might have been what Mike said, but it reminded me a lot of what I heard Billy Gibbons say back in the day, which was, you know, you play what you want to hear. And I think that's the coolest thing, is you're not trying to like fit into whatever you set the precedent for. It's just like he said, we just make sounds that we like to hear, and we put that stuff out, and it's obviously cool when people respond to that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, totally. And we actually ran into them at NAMM. You remember that when we were walking out? You saw Courtney. I didn't see Courtney, but when we were all walking, I think you were with me. And
she was with Cheney from Entheos, which I guess they're good friends. Yeah,
I didn't get to meet them, but it was just random. I can't remember what booth Mike was at, but it was at the end of the day, and we were just like walking out, and I was like,
was it
That's Mike Stringer.
Does he play Aris Titties? Titties? Yeah, he was really cool.
I think it's Aris Tides. Somebody can correct us, but I think that's what it is.
Yeah, he was a really like gracious dude, it seemed, you know what I mean? Just cool to talk to, you know what I mean?
Super cool, super down to earth. And they're right around our age too. I think actually Mike just turned 30. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, so happy birthday to Mike.
Yeah,
shout out to Mike and Spiritbox.
You guys are very inspirational. Like I said, I love that band. Everything that they do, I'm in love with them. So
yeah, it's been cool to see their evolution over the past couple of years, and like we were talking about with the black and white thing, I thought it was kind of cool to see when they made that transition into videos that had a little bit more of a budget. But I think that like that transition into like more vibrant colors, which I think is a cool juxtaposition with the darkness of the music that they make. But it just kind of has a cool effect to it to see them, you know, have these bigger budget videos and then have these vibrant colors. And she's got she's a very fashionable chick, you know what I mean? And all that stuff goes along really cool with their music. So, you know, we dig it. Yeah, there's been a few cool things happening this week. You know, it was funny, on the way over here, or I went to go grab a cup of coffee before we started this, and I forgot my phone. And as soon as I jumped in the car and like drive away, I'm like freaking out because I don't have my phone, and it's one of those reminders that you're so attached to it. But it also was like my phone's become my music listening device.
Yeah.
So
where it used to just be CDs.
Yeah,
and you used to have loads of CDs in your car.
Yeah, I'd have like big books, and I'd be shuffling through them.
You were like, I'll never do that.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna hold on to the CD thing forever until I just, you know, it is what it is. It's the way of the world now. But it was funny. It's the way it's always gonna be. But I always have a couple of CDs that I keep in my car. A couple in particular that they probably just make me feel good to have them. But I came across that Violent Life, Violent Death CD, and so I just popped that in, and it must have been like 2.5 years ago that we went to see them now.
They're awesome.
Yeah, they're awesome. And so I recommend, like, anybody that's into hardcore heaviness that really brings the noise, check out Violent Life, Violent Death.
They're local.
They're from Charlotte, I believe. Or am I wrong?
Charlotte or Greensboro? I think they are. Hold on. I think you're right.
Yeah, look that up. But yeah, definitely, it was cool. It was one of those moments. Like I said, I didn't have my phone, and you know, everybody has their own routine when they get in the car and they're listening to their podcast, their music, or whatever. But it just made me kind of listen to something else, and I put that in. Man, I was fucking jamming to that shit. Those guys are awesome.
Charlotte, yeah, you're right, Charlotte.
I love it. And
yeah, I remember I told you about them because I saw that they had some like kind of clout on Spotify. I think I found them on Spotify, and I was like, I mean, I really like this guy's scream.
What did we see them? Was it Venom Prison? Was it at the show?
Yeah, Venom Prison.
Yeah, they did it at a barber shop here, like 5 minutes down the road
and
from my
house. And I
house.
think it got canceled from the original venue or something, and then
wherever that was.
Yeah, and then some kind of asshole there was like kind of knocking.
Yeah, there's
kids
always
around,
crowd killers at the hardcore shows. You know, that's funny.
The one kid got, dude.
Yeah, it sucks, man.
That made me so angry. Like, straight up decked him, like right in his face. I think he broke his glasses. Just a kid enjoying the show.
Yeah, it sucks, man.
It's one thing. We don't have to go very far into this, but it's one thing to respect people's boundaries and, you know, like kind of just bump into people here and there. But then there's these guys that are just like, seems like you're angry at you're just angry at life, dude, or you're just not a happy person. Just like calm down
and granted,
before
like
you
this,
try to start hurting people, man.
Granted, like this kind of music doesn't necessarily call to, I mean, there's all kinds of people that listen to metal and hardcore, right? Like, you know, happy, sad, it runs the gamut. But you just seem to notice that, like, at hardcore shows, that's where a lot of those crowd killer guys come out, and they're really looking to throw some bows. Yeah. Who sent us the video? Was it Jared that sent us the naked?
No, I did that.
The naked mosh, or maybe we might have to pull that up for people so they can see it. But
I could try to. Yeah, I could try to naked.
I don't know if that makes it. I don't know if that makes it any
video
any better.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to find
that
this
the dude
right now. Let's
was
see.
naked when he was doing it. Naked crowd killing.
See,
Burials?
I feel like there's gonna be like a lot of different ones here, which is kind of scary. Let's.
Was that what it was? The Burials EP release?
I don't know. This looks maybe like it. Yeah, it's it. This one's unedited. The other one was like, it had a thing over his wang, kind of bouncing.
What do you have, like a sock or something?
No, I'm saying like the video that I saw, it was like blanked out or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's definitely necessary to blank that little wiener out.
You know, it's little.
He's so. I mean, good for him to like get out there and do his thing, but you know, fuck that guy in the same breath.
Yeah, but yeah, Violent Life, Violent Death. Those guys, like, we saw them, and it's everything that I thought it was gonna be. Those guys go hard, and they, unlike a lot of those heavier bands, especially smaller bands, I'll be real, you can tell that they've taken the time to, I don't know, their sound is good. Like, it's even live. It was good.
Yeah, they kicked ass.
Their tones are good. You know what I mean?
I wonder what's going on with them now, if they've got like something new in the works, or obviously everybody's been off the grid, but I
don't see anything going on. I guess they're signed to Inner Strength Records, which good for them. That's awesome.
And they put something out, in 2020 at the end of the year?
Yep.
Which, that's good news, because I thought I had remembered that maybe they had stopped making music, which would suck. I wouldn't want to hear that, but
yeah, I met most of those guys. They're really cool, down-to-earth guys. Check them out.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah, so like I was saying, there's been a couple of cool things happening this week in music. One of the cool things, you were just listening to the acoustic EP that Northlane just put out, which was killer. And
you just had 5 songs that they released, maybe?
I think it was 5. It might be 4, but Marcus, the vocalist, just doing his thing and kind of reimagining their songs and doing an acoustic, which I really have a lot of respect for those guys. I think they were the reason that probably I got into metalcore. I definitely wasn't listening to.
They're definitely different.
Yeah, too many bands before them.
I feel like they really inspired a lot of metalcore bands. Like let's say, which is another one that we got into lately the last few years was Thornhill.
Yeah, Thornhill's great. I mean, they're Australian, so they have that kinship, but you can really hear that Northlane sound in a lot of 100%. Bands in the metalcore scene.
It's hard not to be inspired by those guys.
Yeah, and you know, I got so much love for them, and I got so much love for Marcus and what he does. He's one of my favorite vocalists in the metal genre, but I got into him a little bit before he joined the band, and I really love Adrian, their first vocalist.
Yeah, I remember you saying you really liked
just
lyrical content,
lyrics,
and his screams.
Yeah, he was so poetic.
He didn't do much singing. I think towards the end he did a little bit. But yeah. Yeah,
it was more based around the character of his voice, and he had just really gnarly screams, which unfortunately I think he did end up blowing his voice out, which happens a lot with guys that are just doing such gnarly stuff like that. But definitely some of the best lyrics. And yeah, they just kind of opened my mind up to metalcore and what was going on with that, because admittedly, like, I know we were just not in that scene, you know what I mean, and listening to that kind of music. But
I still remember Well, I will say, like, I feel like the older stuff, Disposition's definitely my favorite song.
Dispossession.
Or Dispossession.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes insane. It's so good.
Yeah.
But
Singularity, it's such a great album too.
Marcus joined the band, I mean, I didn't listen to any of that stuff either. None of us did. And then you got into that Rot single.
Yeah,
and
that was
we were
cool.
in the studio. We were recording our EP, and I remember like taking a drive or something like that, and you played it a few times. And at first I didn't really whatever, but then it sank in. I remember, yeah, we were recording the EP.
Yeah, that's funny.
When we were listening to that, so that's kind of cool.
I forgot about that kind of, which was when we were doing the EP. That was one of the things that really started getting me more and more into doing heavy music and doing screaming. And I remember the song Masquerade. I just play that song over and over, and damn it, I can't remember the dude that screams on the song Masquerade. Straight from the Path is the name of the band. I don't listen to Straight from the Path really too much. They're pretty cool. They have like they're in the vein of like Rage Against the Machine. They kind of carry. They've got the whammy pedal going on and the rap, sort of, but the screams. But man, I just used to play that part in Masquerade, and I remember it just being on my mind all the time when we were doing the heavy stuff. And I remember it really being on my mind doing tracks like Spun and stuff. And it got me so excited. And then I mean, we since delved into a few bands, it reminds me of. Randomly, we went to go see Make Them Suffer, which we're opening up for August Burns Red, because you were really into Make Them Suffer, and lo and behold, we caught a band called Silent Planet that night.
Oh yeah, just that band. Like, yeah, they were like just small time.
Well,
like at that time, like not a lot of people
they were just about to blow up.
them.
They were on Solid State, and then over the next 2 years, they really blew up because they had already put out that single Native Blood, which was one of their most popular songs.
Yeah.
And man, we jammed the hell out of those guys, and still do. I love listening to them at the gym. You know what I mean? When I'm on the treadmill, everything with sound, I'll put that on all the time, and it's just a great one to run to.
Another hardcore band that's doing different stuff. You know, they're integrating a lot of progressive stuff into their music, and yeah, I feel like even more so than, well, I wouldn't say more so than Northlane, but one other thing about Northlane is that I think that EP is really special, especially because that latest album that they put out, Alien, was just so electronically based.
The acoustic EPs?
Yeah, like it was, but you know, it's based off of those songs off of Alien, which there's such a huge discrepancy.
There's a song, there's a couple, if not one or two from the album before as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he does Sleepless, which was I
thought Sleepless was from Alien.
It might be.
It is.
Will you check it out? I thought that Sleepless might have been from their album right before that, which I can't remember the name of it now.
Mesmer,
that's what it was. I believe. You might be right.
No, I'm pretty sure Sleepless is. I think all those songs were from Alien, dude. Pretty sure.
Okay, I might be getting confused because I told you last night I checked out this live stream that he did 11 months ago, and he played a lot of songs.
Sleepless.
Okay.
Because I remember, like, on their live thing, he came out with that, like, glittery like, outfit, which was ridiculous, but whatever. I love that stuff. But, yeah, what I was saying is I just feel like it's really cool that they did that, because I feel like it's straying from the path of their album, which is, like, you know, super electronic, which is really cool, you know, and then they do the acoustic thing, which is completely organic. And
they really upped that electronic level to what they were doing. And,
and I think they changed the game again. Well, not to say that has never been done before, but really I can't think of a lot of bands that are doing that right now.
Well, I definitely think that they broadened their audience by doing something like that. And I remember hearing a couple people not really feeling that, but you're always going to have that when you're trying something new, you know what I mean, that weren't into the electronic thing. But it always kind of reminded me of Rammstein, in the sense that they had that kind of industrial metal thing going on. And obviously Rammstein's a huge band that has such a huge following, and they put on crazy shows with pyrotechnics and everything, and they were just moving in that direction, which was cool to see. But yeah, like I said, I was watching that acoustic live stream that he did like 11 months ago, which was really awesome, just to see him really delve into those songs. And he's such a talented vocalist, and he's a lefty, so it's always cool to see a lefty jamming out on the acoustic. But it was cool. Getting off on a tangent talking about those metalcore bands, but yeah, there's admittedly not a whole lot of heavy bands that really get me excited. And I think everybody's kind of like that. You know, they have their own like niche of things that they like, and they'll have their few bands that they love. It reminded me a little bit a couple of days ago. I was just on YouTube, which I'm on YouTube every night now watching stuff, which is funny. That's like my main source of entertainment. And randomly it suggested Deftones 1998 live in Cologne, Germany. And so I thought, I'll check out a couple of songs from this.
You watched I
watched the whole thing.
Yeah,
it was like an hour long, and God, man, it was giving me chills. I was getting like amped up in my room at 2:30. I kind of start, you know, I've listened to so much Deftones. I know their material like the back of my hand, but they were just on the Around the Fur promotional tour. Dude, the intensity from this fucking show, it was like, it makes my hair stand up thinking about it. Chino's energy, Cheese energy is so freaking unparalleled. Like, there's just nobody. And I kind of had forgotten about that because it's been a while since I've jammed Tones on the regular. But just that energy from those early shows.
Ohms, I mean, I still listen to Ohms every single day.
I love Ohms, you know, but...
Because, I mean, that's still fresh.
It's just a little different. And I think both of us have grown with them in their evolution as a band. We love Diamond Eyes. We love Koine Yokin. We love everything they do. But
Gore was a little... I honestly didn't revisit Gore after we listened to it once. I think maybe the
every
Prayers
band,
Triangles or... What was the other two that they did? The ones with Jerry Cantrell?
Hearts Wires was cool, and then Phantom Bride.
Yeah, those were sick.
That album was a little different. I mean, they talked about how Steph didn't have much to do with the writing process as much, and you can kind of hear that stuff come through. Yeah. But yeah, just their earlier stuff, man. And when she was with the band, and just the performance, dude, I'm telling you, like, I don't know how this motherfucker made it through a show. Like, 10 minutes into the set, like, he looks like he's gonna die. Like, his voice, I'm like, this motherfucker is going to fall over, and he's like jumping in the crowd and like freaking out, and just like the shrilliest screams, and everybody in the crowd is just going insane. It was just, it really brought me back to what got me into Deftones, which was probably Adrenaline and those first couple albums. That reminds me of when me and you went to go see them on that Incubus co-headliner tour, which was awesome.
Sick.
Yeah, that was a little stressful because we got to the venue.
The tickets,
yeah, so we had front row tickets basically to see Deftones and Incubus co-headline, which we were freaking out about the opportunity to do that. It's like, this is our childhood dreams come true. We get to the Verizon.
Almost ruined it.
Yeah, I almost ruined it for us. We get to the Verizon or PNC, whatever it is, in Charlotte to go see them. And we pull up, and I just remember there's like thousands of people tailgating, and we're getting really excited. And then I forgot the tickets.
Yep.
And
so
I'm like, I'm like looking through my phone for the email, and it was one of those things where like the email automatically got deleted. I was losing my mind.
Deleting everything.
Yeah, I'm kind of weird like that. I like to keep everything clean. But then
he has me send everything back to him.
Yeah, it's 3 or 4 times. But
fun stuff.
We went up to Will Call and asked if, you know, hey, can you have a fax machine? Can we have somebody fax the tickets? And they were like, no, you can't use our fax machine. And so we ran to UPS or whatever and
got on the computer.
Yeah, got on the computer and got the tickets faxed. Thankfully, my mom was there to save the day.
Oh, yeah,
Shout out to my mom for saving that. And we get to the front gate right as they're starting, and I just remember, it's so nostalgic just to remember them going into those first chords from Be Quiet and Drive. And we're with Drew, awesome. And he had a different ticket. So
Drew was there?
Yeah, he had a general admission ticket for the
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so we hear those chords going, and we just sprint, and it was just such a fun time, man. And they're definitely they're one of my favorite bands of all time, and they're one of the reasons, you know, when starting to transition to play a different kind of music, they were just one of my biggest inspirations for sure. Just everything that they've done and how they've evolved. They kind of were almost pigeonholed into the new metal thing that became super cliche and died, but they were able to evolve out of that, similar to, you know, a band like Incubus, who they were in the new metal scene at first. They transitioned a lot more drastically, I'd say, and quicker. And they had their own thing, obviously. They had the funk thing going on.
Man, we'll have to save a whole entire episode for Incubus, because Incubus has been, you know, they're like my favorite band all time, probably. You know what I mean? Like every album almost, you know, other than some of their stuff, their later stuff now. But even that I can enjoy. But I mean, Morning View was my first album I ever bought with like went into the store and bought that album.
Yeah,
like,
really?
That was the first. Yeah, that was the first album that I ever got. So if that tells you anything. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, seriously, we're gonna have a whole episode. Somebody send something in or something and ask a question about Incubus so we can just go insane on that topic, because I could just talk all day about how insanely awesome that band is. And I got to meet
oh, you got to meet Ben.
Yeah, dude. I got to meet the bass player,
Ben Kenny.
I was getting a burrito at NAMM.
Which Morning View was the first record that he played on, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. You're right.
And he's kind of become one of the band. I mean, they have so many leadership positions. Like Mike's obviously a leader, Brandon's a leader, but
they can pull their inspiration from anywhere with that band.
I think I've heard Brandon say in interviews that Ben is one of the.
He's definitely like an amazing
musician.
Yeah, like he does different stuff. You know what I mean? He plays different types of music.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean,
they're just.
And he's like, I met him and I was like, I like literally got out. Like I said, I was getting a burrito at NAMM. And was that last NAMM that we went to 2019? I think maybe whatever.
You met somebody from APC, right? You met
Matt
Junkins.
Yeah, but
for APC.
But Ben, like I talked to Ben. I actually have a photo. I'll put it down. I'll put it right there so you can see it. But he's so cool, man. Like I got out of line, you know. I got back in line because I was hungry after that. But I talked to him for like 5 minutes just real quick and asked if I could take a picture with him. Yeah, no, that's lame. But he's like, when am I going to get another chance
that's
to
just
do that?
One of those.
You know, it's like, I felt lame, but he was so cool, man. Like, I could tell, like, I could just chill with that guy, like, and have a great time. Like, oh, and talking about Deftones, we met when we were at NAMM as well. You weren't there.
No, I met him.
Oh, met?
Yeah, you saw
Abe,
but it was Frank. You saw Frank. And you said, hey, man, we were at the bar at the hotel that we played at. And
I was like,
dude.
What? That's Frank Delgado.
And then we turn the corner, and there's Abe at the bar.
Yeah, and Abe's like
a lot shorter than I thought he was.
Super cool, man.
Oh, my God.
Like, you know.
That was one of the highlights of my life, man. I sat there and chatted with Abe, and this was – it must have been 2019 because he says yeah,
they just worked on they were working. Yeah, and they just got done with the record, right? They had just – did they just record it, I think?
I can't remember, so. but I said, man, I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys. And he said, keep this on the hush. We haven't announced this yet, but we're going to go on tour with Gojira. And I fucking...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it makes my hair stand up just thinking about it.
They had a tour scheduled with Carnival that they weren't able to do. Remember that?
Oh, shit.
Deftones and Carnival.
I don't remember.
And it was supposed to be they were touring with Carnival in Australia. Anyway, we could just like go on and on and on and on about this. But
it was cool though because Abe, he was down to talk, man. I mean, we just sat there and chatted.
Yeah, and so cool, man.
Like I said, he's
down to earth and cool. Like
that's not a short joke because he was definitely a lot shorter than I thought. But
it's really cool, man.
Yeah, like we said, they're such an inspirational band, and we talked a little bit about this last time in the opposite vein, which is when people are kind of too cool for school, it affects your perception of their music, you know?
Yeah.
And to meet somebody from a band that you've been listening to your whole life and you really just revere, and then you meet them and they treat you like you're an equal, it's just...
And actually want to have a conversation, like are interested and engaged in a conversation.
Yeah, and they don't have this attitude of like, I've talked about this a million times before and I'm over it.
They still had that,
excitement.
Like we talked about on the first episode again, was like that youthful excitement about music.
I just love it, man. It really is. It's one of the most inspiring things you can do is to meet somebody that you're take influence from, and they're really cool. Which that kind of reminds me of this interview that I had seen with Mike Einzinger from Incubus a while ago, and they asked him about Drive, and I just thought he had one of the coolest responses ever, man. It was like they asked him about playing Drive and how they played that song a million times and how does it feel to play it on stage, and after all these years, are you tired of it? And he genuinely, you could tell he was honest. He was like, no, I love that song.
Yeah, how could you hate that when everybody's singing back at you?
Yeah, it's like
it's affected so many people's lives.
Yeah, it's your music, so it's kind of like we said last episode, it's a little bit of a bummer when you're excited about somebody's shit and then you talk to them about it and they just kind of, obviously everybody, you might catch them at the wrong time, maybe they're tired or whatever, but it's just really cool, and it brings your level of reverence for those people in those bands just up another notch, and it just makes you want to go out and support them even more. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
The last thing I'll say about Deftones is another band that obviously is very influenced by Deftones, which has turned into one of my favorite bands over the last 2 years. And again, it was around NAMM that I found out about him, was Loathe.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I mean, those guys are, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about those guys. They're amazing. I can't wait to hear more from them.
Yeah, they've been doing some interesting stuff. Speaking of bands that are stepping outside the box, they put out a few months ago that it reminded me a lot of Brian Eno. It was just like a soundscapey album, and the way that it was kind of advertised. Brian Eno, he's like a really popular soundscape artist. Contortionist has talked a lot about his influence on them and stuff, but he's like an electronic musician and one of the kind of foremost soundscape artists out there. Really influential guy for electronic and soundscapey music. But yeah,
David Bowie, U2, Talking Heads.
Oh, he's just a heavy hitter and influencer for so many people. And I forgot what I was going to say about that, but yeah, they put out that EP and I was really excited because, or it was almost a full length. I was really excited because it was sort of inadvertently advertised as like a new album from Loathe, and so I was really stoked. And then I saw a couple of people,
a lot of people were hating
catching flack, but it was funny because I listened to it and I really liked it, but I was admittedly disappointed. And then I went back to it and listened to it again, and I just had this revelation about it, and it might have been after listening to I Let It In and Took Everything. I might have just listened to that, and then it went into that. And I mentioned this to you, I think, when we were in the studio, that an album like that from a band that's so fucking heavy and just in your face and really just blasting at you, when it transitioned to that and it came on next in my playlist, it was like, this is the perfect thing to hear after that record. Like,
they do have that integrated into their record already.
They do, but just after listening to like 50 minutes of that, even with the dynamics, to go into an album that's just like 30 minutes of straight soundscape, it was like,
I gotta be honest, I didn't listen to it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good. Like,
just
I can
for
tell
me,
it's good, but I didn't listen. That's not why I listened to Loathe.
Yeah, and it's a different kind of thing, especially with heavy music or rock in general. It's a different kind of music, but I really appreciate that for what it is. Is that something that you can just kind of put on and you get lost in your thoughts, and it's not necessarily about the songs or anything. It's just a vibe. And Brian Eno, that's the vein that's in. It's, you can just put it on and you don't really have to pay attention to anything on it. It just kind of fills the air with this atmosphere that really gets you in the right state.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Talking about heavy, let's check out this video.
Okay. Yeah, this is something that's been out for a little while, but
let's just check
it out. Pull it up and see what's going on.
It's 2 minutes and 52 seconds. I don't know if we need to play the whole thing. Maybe we just need to skip around, but let's just
play it for now. These are
since you guys are clapping, can I get a clap, like a steady clap, like?
Turn it up a little bit.
I just don't want it to bleed through.
It's all right.
Oh, I thought so. This is the original one.
No.
All right, so I'm gonna go to this guy.
Yeah, that's the first guy.
All right, I'm gonna skip to the contestants.
There we go. So this is a pig calling contest, and
actually, I'll just play it here. So,
being from North Carolina, we are familiar with these kind of honky tonks.
Are we? I don't know. Dixie Classic Fair is the closest I've been to this.
Turn up just a little bit. I gotta hear it. And this dude's awesome, whoever this guy is, Andre Antunes.
I think I see these right over
Do
here.
you think they're a vegan?
Oh, dude, but What I noticed when I was listening to this, like, some of these screams are so fucking metal, and these people, they probably have no idea that, like, some of them are pretty damn gnarly, and I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, there's hundreds of people in the audience watching this. He's got great cupping technique for his new metal screams. Dude, some of those screams are gnarly. This lady. Let's let this lady. I love how she puts her face away from the mic.
I told you. I told Ben we were hiking when he showed me this, and I just imagine going to this woman's house out here. She's ripped. You see that?
Yeah, she's... Holy shit.
I think she's eating too much pork.
Oh my god.
Because I've heard, is it a thing? Isn't it a thing that? But I've heard that, like,
That's just...
I thought I heard, like, if you eat too much pork, it makes you go crazy or something. It's probably not true.
That video is just one of those things that really restores your faith in the humanity of America. And
Southern.
holy shit.
It's definitely a mix-up there. But yeah, talk about heavy. That's
Yeah, the other thing we wanted to mention was this was obviously a really big week because Tuesday was the anniversary of Cornell's death.
Yeah.
And that really fucking sucked, man. And it's crazy to think that that was 4 years ago at this point. I mean, how time flies is insane.
Yeah, that was and I think any of the guys can tell you that was a really rough time for me. That was definitely the hardest musician's death that I've ever experienced, for sure. That was rough for a while. That was rough. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I don't know if you'd seen them before, but I only saw them once, and that was when we went to Carolina Rebellion.
Yeah, I never saw Soundgarden. Yeah, and that was a few weeks before he passed, I think. Or a few months.
It was a few months. It
maybe.
was one of his last performances, if I'm not mistaken, but I remember the time clearly. We had just seen... Yeah, I say I remember it clearly. I think we had just watched A Perfect Circle. Or was was that the year after?
I don't know. No, I just remember A Perfect Circle was at night when we saw them. Soundgarden was during the day.
No, they were the headliner. It might have been Alice in Chains after APC.
I was thinking of sorry.
Anyway, I remember when they started playing Spoon Man, and it's one of my favorite songs, and I just remember running to the stage and just, I don't know, man. Like I said, it's a heavy thing to talk about just because Chris is he's just one of the greatest musicians of not just our time, but any time. And just so influential to everything. I mean, we were talking about those bands like Incubus and Deftones, but Cornell and Soundgarden was really at the forefront of all of that stuff. And really, like we said last time with an album like Nevermind and Nirvana, Soundgarden was, just as influential as that. And really, one of the things I always kind of felt about Chris's voice was that, we talked about how there was a big shift from 80s music and that style of music into grunge, and it just being kind of like a fuck you to 80s music and that style. But I always felt like Chris could have fit in any world with what he did, and I really felt like he helped bridge. He was one of those musicians that bridged the gap, that you can look at him and say, he's one of those guys that took us from that style into the style of grunge, and it was really palatable for guys that were into 80s music and really stuck in that scene, and guys that were against that and trying to find something new. I think he spoke to everybody, and just the universality of what they did, it reminds me of a couple of bands today that just, obviously it's a lot different, but when I think about a band like Gojira, when we talk about Gojira with metalheads, all metalheads get down with it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter whether you like this kind of thing or that kind of thing. Like, we can all get down with that. And I think that, I don't know, for me at least, Soundgarden was one of those bands that it doesn't matter whether you liked rock, it didn't matter whether you like grunge or metal, like, they spoke to a lot of people. And that night was really big, and definitely, like you said, it was a hard thing to deal with. And it's crazy to think that it's been 4 years already, but you know, we love you, Chris, and we miss you, and you know, we still appreciate you, and I know I still listen to it all the time. So yeah, much love to that and to them.
Yeah, he had such a big part of my childhood, and honestly a lot of the music that I grew up listening to with my brothers and my dad. And then he changed the game again when he you know, was the front man of Audioslave. So it kind of, you know, and that was like teenage years for me. So it was like my whole life I was listening to his voice, and
it's crazy how influential and huge both those bands were.
Yeah.
It's just a testament to the fact that he's one of the greatest singers that we've ever known in the world of music, and
yeah, 100%.
Not just rock.
100%. I mean, you can definitely say top 3 probably greatest rock and roll singers ever. Like,
and he did so many things. You know, he was doing, like, I want to say soundtracks. He did acoustic stuff. He had that Temple of the Dog record, which is a classic and a favorite of a lot of people, and helped bring, you know, Eddie Vedder into the limelight when he had just joined Pearl Jam. I know that it was a big thing because he was good friends with Andy Wood and that whole scene in Seattle. And for those of you that don't know about that, Andy Wood being the first singer for the guys in Pearl Jam, which were a part of a band called Mother Love Bone. And they did a tribute to Andy in the Temple of the Dog, which, you know, Hunger Strike and all those great songs. But yeah, Chris was just a godfather. And if there is a Mount Rushmore for rock and roll music, he's on there, you know, without a fucking doubt.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's a blessing to have music like that. And
those songs now, I mean, they took on another light, you know, when you hear him now, because he's gone, you know what I mean? So when you hear his lyrics, you just feel his pain even more.
Yeah.
Like, it's difficult to honestly listen to. It has been, so.
Yeah, there was an interview that I saw recently with Timmy C, with Tim Comerfield from Rage and also from Audioslave, and he was talking about Like a Stone, and he said he was talking to Chris about the song, and he liked the song, you know, he was on the song, and he said that he kind of assumed that the lyrics were about a girl or something like that, you know what I mean, about a woman. And he asked Chris about it, and Chris said, no, man, it's about death. It's about waiting on death. And he said from that moment after that conversation, he just realized that he had completely underestimated who this guy was as an artist and as a lyricist and as a singer and as the frontman of their band. So yeah, we'll just say it again, that we still miss him, you know, and it's kind of
fucked up.
Yeah, man, it's cool because it's kind of a trip that that music speaks to you so much that you never met somebody, and then when they pass, it's like you lost a member of your family. You know what I mean? I remember that when Amy Winehouse passed, you know, and it's been like that with a few artists but yeah, I wrote a little essay about that when she died, and it's just kind of a trip, man. You know, how something that can connect with you so much, and you never, like I said, you never met this person, but you feel like you know them.
Yeah. You
know, on such a personal level. And, you know, I think that's why, you know, this day and age, when we hear a controversy or something about an artist, I think that's one of the reasons why people can tend to feel so betrayed, you know, when they hear something that goes on with an artist that they don't approve of or whatever, you know what I mean? Because I've always kind of equated it to the fact that you feel like you share a kinship with that person, and then if they do something that you don't feel like is representative of the best part of themselves, you kind of take it personally, you know what I mean? And it's kind of heartbreaking, but I think that's just a testament to why art and music is so powerful. And you know, I don't think it's any small part or reason why, you know, we dedicate our lives to doing this, and why it's just one of those things that breaks down all barriers. You know, art, that's why to me it's the most important thing in this world. It's more important than politics. It's more important than any bullshit that you got going on, because these are the guys that reach across the lines and show us a window into the fact that there's something way more important than the everyday, just what you can see with your eyes. You know what I mean? And you can't deny that when something speaks to you so much, and it changes your life. So, you know, not trying to
put a black cloud on that.
No, not at all, man.
That kind of fucked me up. But
no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to get so heavy, you know, but I don't think it would be right if we didn't mention the fact that, you know, like I said, this week was the anniversary of his death, and we still love him, you know.
No doubt. I need to get some water real quick.
No, you're good. So yeah, that was a little bit on the heavier side. You know, it almost seems trivial for me to mention this now, but I saw that good old Rob Zombie created a new group this week, and I figured that was worth mentioning. Yeah, he's got a new supergroup. I can't remember the name of the song. It's Rat something, but yeah, he's got a new group out with Nikki Sixx and John Five. John Five's a hell of a guitar player, man. He's played for Manson and a couple other bands. John might have played for Zombie at one point, but yeah, it's cool. You know, I mean, he's just an old school guy. I don't know how many Rob Zombie fans there are out there. I know that White Zombie was L.A. Rats is the name of it, of course. I love White Zombie. I love that.
I mean, we liked Rob Zombie when we were kids.
Oh, of course. Yeah, and we got to see him a couple years ago. I mean, I listened to the shit out of it. These were back in the Total Request Live days where I would run home every day after school and
TRL
watch Marilyn Manson with his fake titties and Rob Zombie and his Dragula.
Probably shouldn't even mention Marilyn Manson. We'll get canceled on here.
Oh yeah, with that whole debacle, which
we definitely don't go into that, but
whatever. But yeah, like I said, I don't listen to a whole lot of Rob Zombie, but I always appreciated the fact that he was such a unique force. And not to be on a nostalgia trip, there was a lot of bands. We talk about that sometimes. Back in the day, you could see like Alice in Chains and Rage Against the Machine, all these bands on the same bill that were all metal or whatever you want to call them, but they were so unique. And one of the things in particular that I always loved about White Zombie and Rob Zombie was they were one of the first bands that took audio clips and put them in their music, which you're going to be hard pressed to find any genre that doesn't have that now. And in particular, they would do it with like the horror stuff. Yeah. But I've always been drawn to that. There's something about it to hear. And we had a couple of things like that in our music.
Yeah, everybody always, or I've gotten a few questions about that, which I'm not really willing to give up those.
You don't want to give away the secrets.
The secrets of where those come from,
But yeah, just that element of incorporating electronic things and just doing different things with your music, like I said, that always spoke to me. And, you know, White Zombie grooved like a motherfucker. And he was such a unique dude. I mean, he's not known to be like a great singer or anything like that. He's just known to bring a vibe to the table. And it's always interesting. I mean, that cat, speaking of cinema.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I'm not even into his music that much, but, you know, I'm really into like good horror movies. If there's not a lot of them, but you know, what are House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects.
Devil's Rejects is probably my favorite. I love the outro scene. I love the.
He redid like the Halloween movies, which were okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, House of a Thousand Corpses was like more of a class. I feel like he took more from he pulls from classic horror for sure.
Yeah,
but
I always love that outro scene from
Devil's
Rejects, and
where they all get shot up.
Freebird. It's just
yeah.
And it's funny. I forgot to mention that with like that new song "L.A. Rat." It kind of has that kind of southern '80s thing, and I don't know. There's something really nostalgic. Obviously, like Freebird is one of those songs, like Stairway to Heaven, like play Freebird. If you're anybody that was lucky enough to be in a cover band, especially in the South, you couldn't get away with playing a gig without somebody yelling to play Stairway to Freebird. So
give us something to dance to.
Yeah, give us something you can dance to. That's another one that you hear. But I don't know. For me, I think the generation that was like right before us, they heard like Freebird and Stairway was like so played out. And not to say that it's not played out for a lot, but for me at least, it wasn't as played out because I just didn't listen to it on the radio all the time. You know what I mean? So it still holds a special place in my heart, and it hasn't been bastardized to the point to where I can't enjoy it.
Skinner's awesome.
Yeah, Skinner's awesome. Anyway, so we wanted to do something a little bit different this time. We've got an email address, stellarcircuits@gmail.com, and we want you guys, for anybody that's watching or interested in what we're doing, we'd love for you to send in any suggestions for us, anything you want us to talk about or any music that you want us to check out. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And like I said before, we really want to start getting more people involved so we can sort of create the stellar community around this, and it's not just us.
No pun intended.
Yeah, pontificating endlessly.
Plug.
Yeah.
Plug.
But we got an email from a cat named Ryan Atkins. Shout out to Ryan. Thanks for hitting us up, man. And Ryan says, my name's Ryan. I'm from a small town called North Ridgeville, Ohio. I discovered you guys on Spotify a year and a half ago, shuffling through a recommended playlist by Spotify based on the music I already listened to. The first song I heard from Stellar was Sleepless Goddess. I absolutely fell in love with that song and immediately turned on Ways We Haunt while I worked. I'd love to see you guys discuss Tool and especially how amazingly talented that entire band is. Just want to say that I'm a huge fan. I can't wait to hear the next album. Thanks, Ryan.
That's cool because we just released that lyric video too. I mean, it's old.
Yeah, that is cool.
It's old material, you know what I mean? But we're trying to like just get all the things done that we didn't get originally done. We got a full album stream up, but we don't have the individual tracks, which we're working on it. So
yeah, we're working on a lot of new things now, but. Yeah, shout out to Ryan, man. What's up, dude? Thanks for listening to us, and
yeah, thanks for shouting out, dude.
We appreciate you hitting us up. So, you know, I think we talked about this before. We're always changing what we're listening to. You know what I mean? In any given day and month and year, you're on to something new, and you're kind of where you're at now. But yeah, I think it'd be doing it a disservice to not mention Tool and talk about this and how much of an influence this band's been on us and how much we love what they've done.
Yeah. I think we were talking about this earlier, like you were just mentioning, like, I mean, we don't listen to a lot of Tool's music anymore, you know, but it had such a huge impact on us, and it will for the rest of our lives. So,
and it's just one of those things. I mean, I mentioned that with Deftones. You listen to something thousands of hours. You know, maybe not thousands, probably though. Of listening to these bands, and when starting this band, you know, Deftones, Carnival, Tool, Perfect Circle, these bands were some of the biggest influence, but Tool is just, they're so unique, man. Like, and we were talking earlier about the visual aspect. That's one of the first things you kind of notice with them because they were so provocative.
Yeah.
And visually and lyrically, I remember when I was a kid, I had kind of I didn't know what to think about them. You know what I mean? Hooker with a penis. What the hell is this? You know what I mean? What kind of band is this? And then you look at the videos and you're seeing like worms coming out of people's eyes, and
I loved it.
It's fucking freaky. Like,
I always loved it.
It's weird. I remember clearly Enema being a track that I just listened to over and over, and you know, kind of thinking back. We grew up in the days of Napster and LimeWire and all that stuff. And I remember just, you know, making mixtapes.
Was Lars right?
He was so right.
I mean, he kind of was, you know what I mean? I think even Maynard said something about Lars being right about Napster or something like that.
What do you mean when you say he was right?
Well, Lars was like the main spokesperson.
Well, he sued Napster, him and Dr. Dre.
Yeah. So, like, I'm pretty sure, I think Maynard came out, I could look it up, but I think Maynard, like, kind of had his back. and was like, because you know he got a lot of hate for that.
Yeah, well,
because you know
the argument was that the guys were so rich, but yeah, he had a point. I mean, the music was being stolen, and it was interesting when I don't know when I saw this, but the creator of Napster, whoever this guy was, it really became the formula for iTunes and for iMusic. And I remember him saying that was the goal at first, was one, for people to be exposed to stuff that they might not have ever had a chance to see ever, like whether it be basement tapes from Bob Dylan or live performances from Allman Brothers or anything like that. That was kind of the goal. And obviously, like most things on the internet, it kind of took off and had a life of its own, and piracy went crazy, and it really kind of killed the record industry. But I think one of the encouraging things is that we see nowadays, at least to some extent, the monetization of people's art and music is kind of coming back around with streaming, and we're starting to see, obviously it's really tough to be a musician and make money these days and make a living, but it's a little better than it used to be, you know what I mean, where everything was pirated all the time. But yeah, I think what we started was we were saying about the visual aspect of everything they did, and how that's one of the things that'll really, I don't know, some bands don't have the visuals as much, but I know for me it's a big part of it, you know what I mean? And
they really got me into art in general.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that was the first, would you show these people what you got going on here? Because that's the first tattoo you ever had, right?
Yeah. I have had one before that, but yeah, I have God's Self by Alex Gray on my arm, which was the front cover of 10,000 Days. Just 10,000 Days was black and gray.
Mm-hmm.
But I got full colored. Alex Gray actually put me on his weekly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I could maybe try
really
to find
cool.
it, but yeah, like a weekly tattoo of the week or whatever. I was really stoked about that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if I get it tattooed on my body, it means something. But yeah, like I said, they gave me appreciation for art in general, especially like psychedelic kind of art.
Yeah.
You know, that gets you really thinking about. Like, you look at something like just as simple as this. That's why I put this out today. Is just as simple as that. I mean, your mind can go a million different places with that. But
yeah, I like the provocative nature, but also there's the subjectivity, and there's definitely a difference between their earlier work and their earlier visuals that were much darker, in my opinion. And what I loved about his collaboration with Alex was, like you mentioned, it's very psychedelic, and it really, not to say that their stuff wasn't trippy before, but it leans more into an ambiguous kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily like so dark. There's light in there too. You know what I mean? And Alex is really cool. The stuff that he puts out online, the things that he talks about. I believe he has a podcast as well, where he talks a lot about art, and I love his approach to spirituality, you know what I mean? And how he conceptualizes the divine in his own mind, and how it influences the things that he makes. I mean, I remember hearing him talking about the chakras and the eyes. I think Lateralis, it was the first time that they worked with him.
I think so.
If I'm not mistaken. And
I think so.
I
think Enema maybe.
You might be right because of the eyes, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
But they really started taking it to and it just grew from there.
Lateralis is like, the booklet was like they had the whole dissectional thing or whatever of the human body into the soul. Yeah, I mean, it's just like mind-blowing. Everything that they've done packaging-wise has changed the game, like for music. I really don't know of another band that does it that crazy. You know, and then they have like for 10,000 Days, they had the little Oculus thing or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's called the stereoscopic.
Yeah. And then, the newest one, Fear Inoculum, if you were willing to pay for it, they had like the screen.
Incredible.
They had that little LCD
visuals were
screen
incredible.
And stuff. Yeah, it was just crazy. It's awesome. They're so influential. Like you seeing their performances too, it's just like, how could you ever outdo this? You can't, like, I don't know. Just every time that you can tell they pour they make a lot of money as a band, obviously, and off their merch and everything else, but they pour it right back into their production, you know, and make the shows just an experience of a lifetime.
The last time we saw them, they had that clear veil.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was like I think it was chainmail or some kind of like
something like that that you could see through.
Yeah, which Carnival, I feel like they took inspiration from them with their live stream, and they had that thing in front of them.
Yeah,
I guarantee you they got
cool.
Inspiration.
I remember though how it made me feel when they were like second or third song into the set, and at the climax of one of the songs, it opens up, and it just. It really.
Well, they were projecting images. They had projectors in the audience, above the audience, and it was projecting on that veil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was insane. Just crazy.
Yeah, like I was saying, when I was younger, it was more like individual songs, and I really didn't. I had those moments of albums, like I remember being in my garage when I was a kid, smoking cigarettes and listening to Make Yourself and Battlestar Scratch Lactica, and there were these albums that I listened to, but that kind of changed with the way of the internet and everything, and I kind of got more into mixtapes. So Enema was something I listened to over and over. The single Lateralis was something I listened to over and over, but it was around when I was 19 or 20 that I went and bought 10,000 Days from the record store, and obviously that was way after that it came out, but from there, just the presentation and everything in those songs just sent me on a spiral, and no pun intended, and chronologically then going through every one of their records and just being absolutely
you weren't
obsessed.
into them until you listened to 10,000 Days.
No, like I said, I had singles that I liked.
Yeah, like Enema and
but
stuff.
Then my mind just kind of switched back around to the idea of records and albums, and this was around the time getting more serious with creating my own music and doing original stuff. That's just what really spoke to me. And I think
The Wings for Marie, and so I was like, what?
Well, yeah, I lost my grandma around the time that happened, and you know, that was one of the songs that really helped me pull through that whole experience. It meant a lot to me, and I used to listen to those two songs a lot.
Yeah, that's such a heavy. That whole album is just so heavy. It's like it was unlike anything else that they did. It was just like more soundscapey, I guess the word would be, or just like you could tell they were experimenting. They always do, but it was very experimental. But
yeah, and you know, obviously you hear people that they like the earlier stuff better. There's a few people like that, but you know, for me, I loved everything they did, and really I loved the later stuff because
well, they did have the pot on 10,000 Days, which was
which was one of their biggest songs,
a
but
game changer.
But there's always, you know, and Deftones are the same way, and there's guys like that with Incubus that really love their early, and it's any band, right, that really love the earlier stuff because of the energy, the grit. It's heavier usually, but I really felt like they changed the game with where they went with Lateralis, and then with 10,000 Days, and the conceptuality of it, and just being one of those things. Like I said, I lost my grandma, and you know, when you lose somebody and you go through something heavy, that's one of the places that a lot of people turn, you know, which is to music and art. And it was really a coping mechanism for me. You know, I listened to it over and over, and just the catharsis within that song of him being able to accept his mother's death was really heavy, man. And it meant a lot to me. And that's what I think, like we were talking about with Soundgarden too. It's like one of those things that you just get tapped into something like that. And I don't know, it just helps you deal with that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people that have that affinity for Tool, I think you can kind of see it in their eyes that usually it's people that have been through some stuff, you know. And I think, you know, we've all been through shit, you know, but sometimes, you know, people just have seen the darkness a little bit more than others. And I think a band like Tool, when you get exposed to that as somebody who has been in contact with the darkness, that it resonates with you, you know. And I don't know. There's something spiritual about what they do, in my opinion, and
yeah, for sure.
And it's not to be understated.
They had Opiate and they had Undertow, and then Enema. Opiate and Undertow, I kind of put those into one category, and then they started to branch out and did Enema, and then Salival as well around the same time. And but yeah, Lateralis was definitely where that's my favorite record from Tool. I don't see how, and it's almost 70 minutes of audio, I think. So it's just cram packed with songs. Just yeah, it's hard not to say that wouldn't be my favorite record.
I have a hard time. One day I would say Lateralis, and one day I might say Enema. They're a little bit different, and it was such a shift, but they're really those middle benchmarkers for what they did. And
but yeah, and then 10,000 Days was a different alley too. It was completely different.
And the evolution is just great.
Yeah, and they, speaking individually, I mean, I've started playing bass, and Justin Chancellor is, I mean, definitely one of my main influences. That. The way he plays, it's almost like he's playing guitar, you know what I mean, on bass, which I have a great affinity for, because I there's not a lot of bass players that I was in love with, you know what I mean? Still, I don't, I watch more guitarists play, that's just who I am. But yeah, Justin was definitely the one guy that had me open up to that. He's playing a lot of higher notes and they're doing the interchanging thing with him and Adam. And Adam will play lower while he plays higher on the bass and stuff like that. That stuff is my favorite stuff. So,
well, he plays kind of like a guitar.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He plays like a guitarist on bass, and then he uses all the effects. You know what I mean? And yeah, he's insane. It's awesome.
Yeah, I remember being a harmonica player and then always wanting to play guitar, and I really remember specifically, this is a little off topic but comes back around, is when I first heard Joe Bonamassa, that was one of the things that got me to pick up the guitar. And obviously that's a certain kind of music. It's blues and blues rock. But from there, after playing songs in that vein and then stuff that transitioned more into rock, Adam Jones was what got me playing metal guitar and was what got me doing gent and chugs and distortion. And I told you last week with the Lateralis thing, and we shared that story, but that was a big shift for me. That's what got me playing metal, was Adam Jones, on the guitar at least.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, the playing guitar and trying to sing what they do. It's just, for me, it's impossible. But he really opened my mind up to that genre, and I can clearly see that being a big turning point for the music that we were covering and that I was covering and what I was doing with the guitar. And then,
I mean, I think it was a change for music in general, right? Because they kind of paved the way for that kind of stuff.
Suge was definitely before them, and he was a big fan of Meshuggah, who really, I think, I don't know when Suge started, but I want to say Metallica
80s,
was
right?
before Suge. I might be wrong, but it was around the same time. But Meshuggah definitely took it to that next level, and then I think Adam was really inspired by that, and really was one of the guys, and they were one of the bands at the forefront of the whole genre. Which, when you listen to metal now, you're not going to find any band that's not influenced by that. Yeah. Whether they really like Meshuggah or whether they like Tool. Yeah, gent is really synonymous with metal now. I mean, there's a specificity with that, and there's the purist that this is gent, that's that, but chugging, that's metal. That's where you get it from, that metallic sound, that low string, palm muting, and just hammering.
Zeros and ones.
Yeah, and it's funny because anytime I sit down to play guitar, if I'm doing something a little heavier, it's everything I noodle is a Tool thing. You know what I mean? I'm chugging drop D, and I'm hammering on and pulling off. I love Swamp Song is one of my favorite kind of things. We used to play that song. It's one of my favorite songs to play. The rhythm of that, or Zombie, any of that stuff. But yeah, I clearly remember that being the reason that I started playing metal on a guitar, and then I since transitioned to doing vocals more. But
yeah, speaking of Adam Jones, I mean, you know, he was in film early on too,
Mhm.
like, and he had a big reason why I think that they even started working with Alex Gray.
yeah,
in
he
the
was
first
he
place.
was the reason. Which, not to forget, I don't know if people know this, but Maynard is an artist too, and he has some really cool art. Totally different though, and
Yeah.
Adam's the complete art director of what they do.
Yeah, Adam did what? He was working on Jurassic Park.
He was working on Jurassic Park and Predator.
Predator. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so he was doing the designs for the characters and stuff, and
Yeah, there's like a photo. I'll try to find it. There's like a photo of Adam working on like one of the Velociraptors
so cool.
or something.
And I mean,
for Jurassic Park.
speaking of that, like meld between cinema and
Yeah.
music, you can't find a more quintessential example.
Yeah.
And you know, like Opiate, the cover of Opiate was a sculpture that he did. It's a sculpture of a freaky fucking looking alien priest guy.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
And then he did the cover of Undertow, which was that
like a
rib cage.
yeah.
And I'm trying to think of the cover of Enema. It's kind of escaping me now.
Enema's like the television looking screen thing.
That's right. But yeah, so like we said, he's the art director for the band and does all the visuals and does all the covers, and then he started working with Alex Gray, and that was just those two great artists collaborating, you know, just it really changed everything. I think we should mention too, for people, I'm sure they're aware of this if they're a big fan of Tool, but can you pull up the video from his signature guitar?
Yeah.
They just put out Adam's signature guitar this past year.
Probably shouldn't play the whole thing.
No, just pull it up because I want to know the name of the song. It's The Witness, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And this video,
The Witness, yeah.
The Witness, yeah, this video,
Adam
man,
Jones.
I remember, you know, they had already come out with Fear Inoculum when this came out, but I love this song. And it's written by Adam, it's written by him and Justin and Danny, and it's just an instrumental, but
Yeah, it's
you know, I'll be honest, this had me as excited, if not more excited, than what I heard on Fear Inoculum, just because I love this video, man. And I love the song too, and obviously it doesn't have vocals, but God, it's so cool. And I remember just sitting down and watching it and just being blown away. And you know, we're fanboys of it, so.
And then there's the really cool drum playthrough by Danny Carey, the Pneuma thing. Like, I had never seen a professional playthrough with Danny.
Yeah, they've been real secretive and haven't done too many behind the scenes or like playthroughs or anything like that. And when did he come out with that? That was March 2020.
And then I'll honorable mention for the drum cover. I'll mention this guy named John Q, and he does the best Tool drum cover I've ever seen. He nails the drum tones.
Nobody in the same vein. I know. What is it, Maytal?
Like,
she does.
Come on, man. She's good,
I haven't
but
seen him, so I can't say.
It's like I said, he nails the drum tones. He hits every cylinder. Like, obviously no one's Danny Carey, but I'll link this in the description, or I'll link this on the screen so you guys can check it out yourselves and let us know what you think. But that's the best drum playthrough cover that I've ever seen for Tool. So,
and you should pull up in post and put some of these pictures up if you still have them. We got to see Carey's drum kit when we went to NAMM.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Like, one of the coolest drum kits you're gonna find. And I think he's got like David Hasselhoff in a Speedo by his foot pedal or something. That was pretty funny. But
weird.
He sort of had the similar thing with Neil. You know, because I want to say Neil had like a lot of designs on his cymbals. Am I mistaken with that?
Yeah, I mean, he had a new kit. Neil Peart, he had a new kit every time they went on tour. He had a theme kit for every time that they did a new tour. But yeah,
I think a lot of people probably know Danny's weirdness and affinity with the occult and all that stuff. But I was always enticed by his interest in sacred geometry and the way that he puts his kit together, the shapes of the drums, the designs on the drums.
It's cool.
There's something magical about it, and I love that word. I love
magical.
No, I do, because I remember hearing Maynard talk in an extended interview about art and about, in his opinion, he said, I don't really think you can be a great artist with having some kind of belief in some kind of magic. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean you have to believe that shit's real or spirits or any of that, but it's like there's just something magical about music and about what they do, and I really feel like some of it is probably tongue-in-cheek, but there's a seriousness about it to some degree.
Oh, yeah.
And I think their collaboration with Alex speaks to that too. Alex Gray is that I think the more you try to define it and put it in a box like this is what the divine is and this is what that magic is, then you kind of lose it.
Yeah.
But I like the way that he put it, that the great stuff, you kind of feel there's something there, you know what I mean? There's some kind of tether to that. So
I feel like we could like have another whole episode about Tool, but we're gonna leave it with this on this episode. I feel like all on this, but there's so many alleys that we can go down and talk and discuss about. We're trying to leave these episodes at an hour. You know, if we go over a little bit, it's whatever. But I will mention too, Paul, the earlier bass player for Tool. What's his last name?
DM Moore.
DM Moore. Yeah, he has a band that
had a band.
No, I just saw today. That it reminded me that they are working on new material.
No way.
Yeah, it said like August 2020.
That's fucking crazy.
But anyway, a band that really means a lot to me and Ben as well is a band called Lesser Key, and he started this band. I think it was in 2014. They dropped the
Was
EP.
it that long ago?
Yeah, they dropped the EP in 2014.
Sumerian Records.
And it was one of the. Like, I listened to that album probably more than any other stuff that we listened to at the time. Like Carnival and Lesser Key were like on repeat for me. And they only had 5 songs on that EP.
But they were great.
But and we recorded our EP shortly after that or whatever. But that was such a, I mean, if you haven't heard Lesser Key, please do yourself the favor in checking them out. I mean, they're a smaller band, and a story behind that is that we actually were trying to go and see them. You remember that? And we went to
they didn't show up. Chevelle,
South Carolina, right? And we drove like 3 or 4 hours to South Carolina. Yeah, Crowbot and Chevelle.
Well, Crowbot took their place because Lesser Key was going to open up for Chevelle, and they didn't show up that night. And that was the whole reason we went. I mean, we love Chevelle.
Yeah, we've seen
them.
them a bunch. But yeah, that was disappointing. And then we were on the way back, and Ben got a really horrendous speeding ticket.
No. That speeding ticket
night?
Was the night of the Dillinger Escape Plan.
Oh, okay.
Tour,
okay. That's another story for another time. One funny story about Ben's favorite song, Enema, was I was dating a girl in, was it middle school?
I think so.
Yeah, it was middle school. And we were prank calling people and doing the crank
yankers
kind of thing, and I was singing like parts of Enema, like I can't remember the sections that I would sing, like Learn to Swim, whatever, and I was singing this, and Ben, I had just broken up with my girlfriend at the time, and Ben decided to call her.
I don't even remember.
And this was on her voicemail that I left.
So I 3-way called while you were on the phone with me?
No, you were with me, I think.
Oh.
And
I just pulled
you were like calling the numbers, and you called Melissa.
And you didn't know?
I didn't know, and I was singing Enema phrases into her voicemail. Oh man, that's
not embarrassing.
That was really embarrassing. That was never spoken of again, but yeah, I remember being pissed at you for that.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention about Lesser Key really quick before we wrap up, was that because we were talking about that whole like spiritual, occult, and like magical thing, and that was one of the things that really struck me with them too, was like the imagery right away, and looking into their name, Lesser Key, which is derived from the Lesser Key of Solomon. It was just, having that depth of mystery into what they did, and then I don't know the guy that writes the lyrics or the singer's name, but it's so evocative, and it's really in that same vein of just mysterious spirituality. So I think that's not to be understated, and that's really exciting that they're coming out with new music. I thought that they were fucking done for sure.
No,
that was like Facebook 6 or 7 years ago that they put that EP out.
And I reminded myself today because I remembered, like, we were talking about Tool, and I was like, dude, I gotta talk about Lesser Key. I mean, and then I went through, I think I listened to it twice today. I listened to it after I brought it up and I was just like, dude, like, I like texted my brother. I was like, I don't know if I turned you on to these guys yet, and they only have one album, or EP, but do listen. But yeah, that EP meant a lot to me, especially earlier on. Like, that was before we wrote. I think that might have been right in the middle when we were writing our material. Yeah. So,
and that's when Sumerian was really kick-ass. They had Circa Survive, they had Carnival, they had Lesser Key, they had Crosses.
Yep. I mean, they're doing well.
They're doing well, but I'm just talking about personally.
The bands that we loved. Yeah. They had Animals as well.
And then they kind of transitioned to more of like a lot of the metal bands that are
Crosses as well.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
So, yeah, but anyway, it's good stuff, man.
Again, we could talk all day. All day. We kind of had to skip. Like, I can tell we're trying to fit all this information in because, like we could literally talk for another 2 hours about Tool and how they've influenced our lives personally, musically. Just, they're a special band.
Anyway, thanks to Ryan. Thanks again, man, for hitting us up and giving us the suggestion. We need more stuff like that. So, I'll say it again. Anybody that's interested in what we're doing and digging it and wants us to chat about something, and I said before that we'd like to figure out a way to possibly figure out more things to do on the show, whether it be a Zoom call or something. But
I will say this episode feels a lot different than the first one. We're still trying to we're trying to figure it out, but.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's natural. It's coming out.
So we're
learning.
We appreciate you guys listening to us, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Peace.
Later, guys.
Love and music.